We now welcome on a very special guest. He is Harvey Unga, one of the all-time great BYU running backs. He was a seventh-round supplemental draft choice of the Chicago Bears in 2010, and now currently is a graduate assistant back with BYU. Harvey, how are we doing?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. It's great to see you. All
Hey,
right, so
likewise.
yeah, so you come from a football family. Your dad was a running back for BYU in the '80s. Your uncle also
Yeah, yeah.
played college football. Was signed by the Steelers. Was football kind of instilled in you from that young age, where you knew that that's kind of what you wanted to do?
You know what? I wasn't really sure to be honest. My dad is actually one of the most laid back guys that you'll ever meet. And as far as trying to instill the whole football thing in me, he kind of just let me do my own thing. So it wasn't until a little bit later on that I really loved, like, I kind of just picked football and that was what I wanted to do. But for the most part, surprisingly, basketball was my that was my dream. I thought I was going to be one of the first Polynesians to go into the NBA, and
Wow.
that didn't work out, obviously.
How would you rate your hoop game back then?
Oh, geez, I don't know, man. It's hard to, I guess, rate yourself. For me, I mean, I always thought I was the best, but I'm sure my teammates were probably like, "You're a 5 out of 10, Harv." So,
Oh. So was it just how invaluable was it when you're with your dad having all of his experiences when you started playing college football at a higher level?
he actually coached me up until high school. He was my elementary school coach, middle school coach, and then when I got to high school my freshman year, he kind of let me do my own thing. But up until then, I mean, he uh, he taught me the game of football. He came here from Tonga, where football just, I mean, it didn't exist. So rugby was the thing that he grew up playing. But rugby kind of, as far as a running back standpoint, it helped me learn the game of football a ton. And as far as running instincts and understanding, um, just, I guess, the scheme of the game of football, it helped me a ton in that aspect. So pops helped me a ton. And then once freshman year came, he kind of just let my high school coaches do their thing, and from there, just, my game evolved uh, after that.
Well, I know you had an excellent high school career. I think you even won a state championship in Utah.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
after that, you were recruited by like 10 schools or something. And like I was looking, there's some heavy hitters like Oregon, Cal, and Stanford. How close were you to going to any
yeah.
of these different schools? And what was your decision making process like at that point?
Oh, it was tough. And me being young and very impressionable, I like the glitz and glamour of Oregon and all these other schools. And at the time, Urban Meyer was up at Utah, and they had just won the Fiesta Bowl with Alex Smith, and they were one of the top teams in the country at the time. And for me, I kind of was persuaded by that, and it was tough. BYU wasn't doing so hot. We were coming off of three straight losing seasons. The head coach had just gotten released, so BYU wasn't looking too favorable for me. But at the end of the day, it worked out how it did, and I was committed to a few other schools, and thought I was going to be heading up north to Utah, and then I don't know, for just gut instinct said, hey, just let's try to go to BYU and see what we can do over there, and see if we can change that program around.
Now, when you left BYU, obviously you had an accomplished career there, but it sounds like you had kind of more humble beginnings. Talk about your freshman year in 2006 and kind of the struggles you faced early on just trying to get playing time.
Oh, that it for sure was humbling. Coming in, of course, every freshman wants to play, every guy wants to get on the field and be an impact player from the get go, but that's not always the case. And I learned that just I had Curtis Brown, Fahutahi, Manasseh Tonga, Fui Vakapuna were all running backs that were ahead of me as far as the depth chart goes. So I knew, it was a super long shot. So I figured, hey, I'm going to do special teams, do what I can to get on the field. And then if it doesn't work, then, I'll be the best scout team player I could be, and kind of go from there. Was lucky, I ended up starting on special teams, and then got my first couple carries early on that year in the season, and got my first touchdown that year, and was feeling good about myself. That was the second game against Tulsa. We fly out to Boston College, and it was a freak accident on a special teams play, and I ended up breaking my hip, and that was the end of 2006 for me. I ended up just having a red shirt, just sat out, and that for sure was definitely one of the most humbling things for me, because I had never been hurt in my whole career until then. So yeah, it was tough.
Now, that hip injury you mentioned, that was the same hip injury that Bo Jackson had that ended his NFL career, and it also led to the end of your former teammate Dennis Pitta's career. How are you able to come back from that injury just a year later and be full go, and what was that time like for you?
It was tough. For me, I think it wasn't really the physical side. I was actually way ahead of time as far as my recovery process. I had broken it in September. Was supposed to be on crutches or wheelchair for first 3 months, and then start doing jogging and walking and all that stuff in January. But for whatever reason, my body healed a lot faster, and I think it was the middle of November, I was already back sprinting, cutting, full go. It was kind of crazy. It was a huge blessing for me to be able to recover that fast, but definitely the mental aspect of it, that was tough, man. It's anyone that goes through injuries, they know what I'm talking about, and they know that part of the game, mentally, it takes a toll on you. But once I got back into the swing of things, like I said, I was full go early on, but the trainers thought that I probably should have just taken it easy, and they had me sit out of winter ball, spring ball, and then fall camp was when I started actually practicing and doing everything with the team again. But it worked out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I heard that during that time when you were injured, you tried to walk up to your coach and tell him that you wanted to quit football. What was kind of his reaction when you said that, and how did everything kind of go from there?
Oh man. So Coach Reynolds, Lance Reynolds, he was my running back coach at the time. One of the most amazing coaches, but easily one of the most amazing men that I've ever been around. And there was I walked in. I remember I was going through a ton of things at the time. I was thinking about school. I was frustrated, thinking, who comes back from this kind of injury? And early on, I remember it was probably like 3 weeks after I had broken it. I went up to Coach Reynolds into his office and just told him I was just thinking about hanging it up and just finishing school, try to get my degree, and then kind of move on from there. And I remember one of the things he said to me was, it was a little quote, but he had said, and I hope I don't butcher it, but all of the water in the world couldn't sink the tiniest ship unless it lets the water in. And he was like, just think about it, before you make this decision. He's like, I know you got a ton of things, bogging you down. You got a lot on your mind, but just think about that. So if football is what you really love and what you want to do, don't let all these other outside influences or other, negative thoughts come into your mind and take you away from what you love and what you want to do. And so I thought about it for a while, and he just kept it under wraps between he and I. Didn't let Bronco Mendenhall know or anyone else know, what I was thinking. And then I came back and just told him, I was like, you're right, coach. I was just thinking too much, had way too much on my mind, and was kind of making an irrational decision based on my emotion. And like I said, I owe a ton to him, and was just super grateful for his support and his belief in me. It meant a lot, because from then it just kind of propelled me into what I was about to get into the following season.
Absolutely. And it's a good thing that you guys had that kind of conversation like that, because you did end up leaving BYU at the time as the all-time leading rusher. So what kind of drove you to be as successful as you were in those next 3 full seasons you had?
A lot of it stems from my family, my coach. I think those were definitely the two that really kind of propelled me into what I was trying to accomplish. I came from a family that my parents did amazing to raise myself and my siblings, but we didn't have a ton, and there were plenty of times where we struggled, and those kind of things helped me really hone in what I was doing, and it just it made me hungry. It made me want to work harder so that way my parents didn't have to work as hard, and just kind of give back to them, and help them out, and then also help my siblings out, and help take care of them as well too. That was definitely something that helped me evolve my game, and help push me over limits that I thought I had. And then really my teammates too. Like I love my guys to this day. I was actually just in the locker room with Dennis Pitta and Austin Collie.
Wow.
We were just talking over here. They're in town, and um, there's a ton of guys from the teams that I played with that I still keep in contact with. I still have a close friendship and bond with those guys, and they definitely helped me out. Um, in times of struggle and need, and um, those kind of bonds and stuff. I think helped me a ton. Just made me want to play harder for those guys, and um, it just I mean it pushed me to just bust my butt off, and the same with my coaches too. Coach Reynolds and Bronco and all those guys are phenomenal coaches. Coach and I, Marky Altuaya, that we had a ton of guys that looked after us and took good care of us, and I just was hoping to repay them by working and playing hard.
That's great. So you scored 45 total touchdowns during your time at BYU. Was there one in particular that kind of stands out above the rest?
Um, I mean, I'll always remember the one against Utah, my freshman year. It was kind of funny because I wasn't expecting it. It was actually a play where I was supposed to just kind of get tackled towards the middle of the field in case we needed to kick a field goal, just to set up the kicker spot. But uh, saw a gap open up, and instead of just I don't know getting good field position, I ended up just hitting the gap, and was fortunate enough to get into the end zone, and put us up by a touchdown, and helped win that game. And yeah, I mean that for sure that's definitely one of them. But it's it's kind of weird. There's another. I guess the one other one. It wasn't even me scoring a touchdown. I was in the game, but I remember we were at UNLV. There was a freshman fullback that was in. It was first time going in, and we were on I think the 2 yard line. And Coach and I had called just a dive play, and I turned to Max and told him I was like, hey, just run. We'll just run fullback dive. Just hand it off to JoJo. His name is JoJo Peely. I was like, just let JoJo run it. And Max was like, no, we're not doing that. Like, we're gonna run this. And I was like, I'm not gonna take the hand off. I was like, I'm just gonna, if you're gonna try to hand the ball off to me, I'll just stand there. And he knew I was serious too, because Max kind of knew where I stood, if I really wanted to do something. And so he was like, all right, let's call it. And I remember we called it. JoJo ended up. I looked at him like, you better score, man, or I'm gonna look like an idiot. And he bulldozed his way in, scored his first touchdown on his first carry, and all of us were just going nuts. And I remember just thinking, I'm like, man, that was one of the coolest things to see. Like, to me, that was what this game was about. Like, this kid worked his butt off all year, had his moment, and he made it happen. And that for sure was definitely one of the most memorable times for me, because just seeing the sheer joy on his face, on our teammates, and everybody, it was cool. That's definitely one that I'll always remember.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I actually was reading about that. You had 3 touchdowns in that game in the first half. And I think the one touchdown that the fullback had, I think that was the only touchdown he ever scored in his college career. So that just
Yeah.
kind of speaks to, I guess, the unselfishness you as a player.
That was our whole team, though. I mean, Max could have easily just said, no, I'll run QB sneak then. Or he could have audibled and checked it and threw, a quick slant to Dennis, or a stick nod to Dennis, or quick slant to Austin. But, it was a collective thing. So I mean, I wouldn't say that it was I don't know, humble part for me. It was just all of us were always trying to look out for each other, and we all wanted to see everyone succeed.
That's so cool. I do want to jump ahead to your post-college career. So you were taken in the 7th round of the 2010 NFL supplemental draft by the Bears. So for those who kind of aren't as familiar with that, because it's not the regular NFL draft, could you briefly explain that, and what was the process of being picked in the supplemental draft like?
Man, that's tough. So I didn't even know what it was, to be honest. I remember at the time, my parents, we were all trying to figure out what I wanted to do, if I was going to go to another school and finish my college career, or if, I was just going to sit out the season and then wait until the draft came the following season. But I had the opportunity to talk to a few different agents, ended up signing with my agent, and he had informed me about the supplemental draft. And from there, I decided I was going to do that. But it's like a silent auction. To be honest, like, I had no idea. I just remember there was one draft day, and I know all 32 teams, or I guess the teams that are looking, they all the GMs kind of, they have their own conference meeting, a call, and pretty much was the highest bidder. They can be outbid by somebody else or whatever, and they'll end up taking you that way. And there's no, I guess, first, second, third, fourth pick or whatever. It was just, you're always the first pick of each round that you go in. And at the time, I had found out, usually they don't hold it every year. They'll only hold it, I guess, if there's somebody that that teams feel that they'd be able to draft. And I think, I want to say, in all the years that they've had it, I don't know, there may have been 15 to 20 guys take, or something like that. It was a small number.
Yeah.
But that being said, they usually the rounds, if you were to go into the regular draft, the round that you were predicted to go in, they usually will bump it back 3 or 4 rounds in the supplemental, just because they're kind of taking a risk on you. And I was just, waiting for the call that day. And fortunately, Phil Emery from Chicago ended up calling my agent. And then Harvey Smith called me after that and actually told me, hey, we're going to pick you up, kid. And, hope you're ready for camp and everything. And from there, I was like, all right, let's go.
How would you describe your tenure with the Bears? Because I know there was a lot of ups and downs, and a lot of roster moving going on at that point. So looking back, how would you describe your time there?
Man, I loved it. I fortunately, that was where my wife was from. So we got to go back to her hometown. And I'd never been there. So it was new to me. Everything was new to me out there, but it was by far the coolest experience I had ever had, as far as football goes. It's something, as a kid, you see all these guys playing, and then to be there with them, in the locker room, practicing, doing everything with these dudes, it was pretty sweet. But it was tough. I came in, it's, all the, everything was stacked against me coming in late into camp and everything like that. They had drafted, the running backs that they wanted. Matt Forte was, the guy. And so for me, it was just, everything was all uphill. But fortunately, like I said, it was awesome because the players over there really welcomed me in, even though I wasn't there with spring ball for them or anything like that. When I came into fall camp, everyone was super cool to me, and I was fortunate to stick around as long as I did, and just grateful that I even had the opportunity. But like I said, it was cool because I was on a team full of Hall of Famers at the time. I look back now, and at the time I was like, oh, this is sweet, man. But I didn't realize, the presence that I was in, as far as my teammates and who I was playing with, until probably my second, third year in. It hit me. I was like, I'm playing with some Hall of Famers on this team. This is sweet.
Did that ever take a toll on you? Because I was reading that there was a pretty vicious cycle of being cut, re-signed, practice squad. Did that take a toll on you and kind of make you question like why you were in there?
Um, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like it was tough, and for me, it almost took away the love of the game, because I soon learned it's a business, and all feelings set aside, like they've got to do what they have to do, as far as the business standpoint, and having been cut for various reasons, that's tough, man. Like that sucks, and any guy that ever has to go through that, you know, it's one of the toughest things to go through mentally, emotionally, and even physically. It sucks, but I think that the hardest part of it, more so than anything, was hearing from them, like the general manager or whomever it was, just saying, it's not you, it's a numbers thing, or we've had injuries here and there, so we've got to just supplement that, and um, that to me was the toughest part because if it was because of the lack of my skill, I could live with that because then I know, okay, I have something to work on and get better at, and I can fix. But when they tell you it's a numbers thing, or sorry, we had too many linebackers hurt, so we got to pick up a linebacker, and we have too many running backs or whatever, then that's where it sucks because then you're just like, well, it's not because I suck. It's just it's a business. So I don't know. It's tough, man. But uh, it 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 also, I mean, you could look at it and say, "Woe is me," but the other side was, all right, I'll just work my butt off, and if another team gives me a shot, then let's go. Try to make the best of it.
So I saw that in 2014. That was kind of the last time you linked on with an NFL roster. And those years following that, what was the closest you ever came to getting back out there?
Um, I mean, I had tryouts here and there, but I think at the end of that year, I just, my wife and I kind of decided, it might be time to move on. We had our fair share of the the crack at the NFL life, and playing, and you know financially trying to make a living for ourselves and everything like that. But um, at that time, I had a 4-year old and a 3-year old, um, and it, it takes a toll on them. And for me, I'm a father and husband before I am a football player, and that to me just I kind of decided it's I gotta be a dad now, and not saying that you can't be a football player and a dad and husband and everything, but um, the NFL part of it kind of changes that dynamic where the uncertainty takes you away from the family, and it just, yeah, I mean, that was kind of it. But there was opportunities to play again, had you know opportunities to try out, and then could have gone to play in Canada, but it just, I just didn't want to put my wife and my kids through that. So
Let's fast forward to today. You're a graduate assistant coach back at BYU. When we were talking back in 2006, when you said you were thinking about quitting football, you even said at that point you were interested in coaching. What is
yeah.
it about coaching that made you kind of know that that's something you wanted to do?
I think it kind of stems back from my dad, I would say. Him being, my coach as a young kid, there was a lot of lessons that he taught me that, are um, just super valuable for me, throughout my life. And then after my dad, my high school coaches, college coaches, and even NFL coaches, they definitely impacted my life in a great way. As far as helping me become a better person, a better coach, a better, uh, even a better husband, a better father. It I think it helped me kind of grew me into the man that I am today, um, and even the coach that I am. But um, yeah, I mean, early on, I think I love the feeling of helping others. Obviously, like anyone loves that, but um, I think teaching is definitely the thing that I felt the most comfortable with. I felt like as a player, I was able to help the younger backs when I was playing in high school, playing in college, and then in the NFL. Like it kind of just felt natural for me to help teach guys the game of football, from my perspective. and then to see them, use what I taught them and see them succeed, that's, there's no better feeling than that, And so that kind of helped me realize, like, man, I love this. I love what I'm doing. And if I, regardless if I'm coaching in college or not, I'll go coach high school. And if they say I suck at high school coach, maybe I'll coach middle school. If they think I suck at middle school, then I'll go coach a Pee Wee league or something. But it's just, coaching is just, I love it. I love teaching these kids the game of football. But then the lessons after that, I think it's been fun for me to help try to teach these guys too.
I love that. I want to do a couple quick rapid fire questions, and I know you got to run. All right. So, what's your favorite sports movie?
Ah, man. That's tough. As weird as it sounds, probably Cool Runnings.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Who's one running back whose style you tried to emulate?
I don't think there was really just one. I try to take a bunch of different ones and try to implement all of them together. So I loved watching, Walter Payton, Eric Dickerson, Jim Brown, Barry Sanders, Adrian Peterson. I would just try to, just watch a bunch of different running backs and try to implement, what they do in my game. So that's tough. I don't know if there's just one in particular that I would try to emulate.
You saw some action in some of the Bears preseason games. Was there one player you ran into and were not necessarily starstruck, but just like in awe of, or just had like a great respect for?
I mean, I was on a team full of Hall of Fame guys. So being with those guys and then seeing the other guys across the field, I don't know. I was humbled to be around all of them. But as far as starstruck, I don't know. Like, I think any of those amazing quarterbacks, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. I don't know. That's tough. Like I said, I mean, I was around guys like Brian Urlacher and Julius Peppers and Charles Tillman and Lance Briggs and Matt Forte, Jay Cut. Like, the list goes on. Brandon Marshall. There's so many dudes that I was around that, for me, it just kind of was like, I don't know. I wasn't as starstruck, so to speak. Ray Lewis was definitely, one of the guys that I admired. Adrian Peterson. I mean, there's a ton of guys.
So you were number 45 in the college and in the pros. What made you choose that number?
That was a number I had since high school.
Oh.
Old school number, kind of just that I felt like that was kind of my game. I was an old school running back. I felt like in my heart. My uncle wore that number as well in high school and whatnot, college and stuff. So it just was kind of a number I carried on from there.
All right, last one. What's your prediction for the BYU USC game tomorrow?
Yeah, we just, as long as we win, that's all I care about. I mean, as far as the score goes, it can be 3-0. I don't care, but a win's a win. I'll take the win, and that's the goal. So
exactly. All right, Harvey. Well, it has been an honor to talk to you and kind of get to know you a little bit. Best of luck in your coaching career, and go Cougs, right?
Yeah, appreciate you, bro. Appreciate it. Good luck with everything too, man. Thank you.